Hello, hello, and we are live. Welcome to the Learn with Launch at lunch. I'm never going to get used to saying that. But welcome to our LinkedIn Live. We're live on both LinkedIn and YouTube, and this will be also recorded afterwards. I do want to emphasize this should be an interactive session. So if you're here and you'd like to ask us questions, that would be really, really awesome. But obviously you can only do it while we're live. If you've got questions afterwards, do drop into the DMs on LinkedIn. You've got to be careful how you say that, don't you? Yeah, send us messages on LinkedIn or go through our website, because we do these sessions because we want to add value. We want to be able to communicate with people all of not only the great work that we're doing, but also what's possible with performance marketing and how things are moving on. So today we couched it as getting ready for Black Friday, but really this is for anybody who has customers, which is like the most important thing in business, but who wants to be able to leverage those customer insights much more effectively. So let's do some intros first. I'm Jay. I'm the founder of Launch. You'll often see me on a LinkedIn post. It's my favorite place to hang out. And today I've got Josh.
Hello. So as Jay has introduced, I'm Josh. My role here at Launch is a senior paid media manager. But what I couldn't fit into that little bubble was also, in brackets, CRO specialist. So I split my role across paid media and CRO as well. So which ties in obviously really nicely with some of the stuff we're going to go through today.
Before I ask you the most important question of the day, which is what you're going to put on your pancakes on Pancake Day next Tuesday, the dual role that you have with Launch. So you're helping our clients with performance marketing, with their paid media budgets and planning and Google ads and Meta ads, etc. But what's the other half of your role?
So the other half is where I will be doing a whole range of things, from speaking to people's customers to get a better understanding of why, rather than just the stats we see in the platforms. We'll be looking at changing landing pages. We'll be analysing the full customer journey, essentially, which ties in so nicely with the paid media side of my job, because it means I can really understand the process people are going through from start to finish, even before they get to the website, and what they do after they can click through the ads.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. So for my pancakes next Tuesday, I'm going simple. I'm going Nutella, and feeling very guilty about it because we'll have to use the entire jar next Tuesday with my kids and my husband, so that it's not left in the house. Otherwise, it's my downfall. It's my weakness.
For me, it might be a surprise to some, but I am just quite a traditional lemon and sugar guy. Just
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's just, keep it classic, really. I don't know if anyone's in the same boat as well as this, but I found out in February that Pancake Day wasn't in February, which ruined my February.
It made for a very, very long February.
It's kind of the point of February, isn't it? I don't know what else it's doing.
So hopefully lots of people have joined now. Hopefully lots of people have joined now, and we're going to absolutely crack on. And whether we're talking about Black Friday, whether we're talking about peak, whether we're talking about your most important sales period of the year, why is it now important to start acting in advance of that? I mean, from my perspective, from the paid media side, media is more expensive than ever before. Google is going, up 20% year on year, depending on which client you're looking at. The cost per click keeps getting higher. You've also got this splintering of customers across so many different channels now. You've got TikTok really gaining lots and lots of momentum, YouTube Shorts, all of the different platforms, several platforms just within Meta. There's also more competition than ever before. That's something that just keeps growing post-COVID, lots of more budgets coming online. And a difficult time politically. We're definitely not going to talk about politics today, but the year of austerity just keeps on giving, and cost of living crisis and all of the buzzwords. So that's I think particularly why today we're talking about making the most of that customer journey, and that potential that we have. But tell us a little bit more about how that can help.
Yeah, I think having, we speak to loads of people, lucky to speak to loads of clients every day. And I think one of the things we come across really frequently, particularly with GA4, is people struggle to understand the data that they've got. People are looking at it, trying to uncover, why conversion rates are what they are, particularly if they're seeing them go the wrong way, for whatever reason. And even just interpreting that data has become more and more challenging in the analytics platforms. What speaking to your customers does do is it gives you a why, as opposed to just the what that those analytics platforms give you, which obviously helps when you're to kind of illuminate that data when you're looking back at it. But also it really helps guide you what you want to be doing moving forward.
I'm unmuting myself. I'm having a coughing fit, but it's okay. We're live. We're talking here about really understanding the customers and the customer journey. There will be a wide range of CMOs and marketing execs watching this. What's the barrier to entry on this like?
Well, to be honest, the good news is there isn't really anything to stop you doing it straight off the bat. If you've got customers, which hopefully you have, you can talk to them and you can understand them. It's like anything, obviously, with, if you are using a third party or a performance agency or whatever it might be, you should get added benefits with it. Like, we have like a learning library where we'll house all of the recommendations and tests that we give. Obviously, the quality of those recommendations as well is, if you're using an agency, for example, should be better. But there's nothing to actually stop you just going out and getting that feedback from your customers, to help understand, why they buy with you, what your USPs are, etc.
So a more kind of scientific approach is maybe if you're using a third-party partner.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to see. I believe that you've kind of prepared some information for us to actually see some examples. So I'm just going to add that to the screen now, hopefully successfully while not having a coughing fit. This is like one of my absolute favorite stats here. So talk us through this information, Josh. We've established the fact that media is more expensive than ever. We're not sure exactly what's going to happen next peak. We're not sure. There's lots of things out of our control, but these are some of the things that we could do now to start making sure that you could beat the competition next peak.
Yeah, for sure. And as we go through the slides, it'll become more and more apparent as to why it is important to start now. But yeah, just in context of this slide here, the first thing that you need is an experimental mindset. And obviously the good news is that is free. But you have got to be open to testing things. Because if you aren't, ultimately the research that you do, the learnings that you make are going to be pointless, because you're not going to act upon them. So having an experimental mindset across, yourself, if you're doing it yourself, and also key stakeholders in the business is absolutely paramount. And this stat here just illustrates that. But yeah, it's getting really adopting that mindset, which is the most important thing, and can in fact sometimes be the most challenging one.
Yeah, and we hear a lot at the moment from CMOs that the CFOs are now more involved. You've got financial directors sitting in on marketing meetings, wanting to know what the plans are for spend. How can they increase efficiency and effectiveness, and potentially in some cases even pull back budgets? And so, if there is an opportunity to get more from your paid media budgets through experimentation, then this should be something that is part of this year's planning. So Josh, tell us more.
So I will hop on here. So once you got buy-in and you've got that kind of experimental mindset, the next thing, the kind of next step in that process is to make sure those experiments have got the best chance in winning or succeeding. And the best way to do that is to make sure the hypothesis you're putting in those experiments is research backed, because lovely stat here that says you will win more if you do that, essentially.
I've got a little comment on that Tanya put on LinkedIn that she can't get over that stat. So it's it's not just us that are shocked, and it is interesting, that this idea that that gut feel isn't enough. We're the amount of changes that are made to websites or ad copy based on opinions of the marketeers and not the customers. That's a worry if you're not using that customer voice. So it's interesting to actually attach a stat to that.
Exactly. And we'll go into it in more detail, but it will really surprise you on how your customers perceive your brand and how that can guide how you talk to them in the future. It's very rare that it's exactly what you think it will be as the company. So it's really important to speak to them. Cool. On our next slide, this is kind of just a fancy graph type thing that basically illustrates all the things we've been talking about just there. We're on the left-hand side. We've got those kind of research pieces that then inform our hypothesis for our test. Hypothesis is such a hard word to say.
It's tricky given it's half of your job.
I know, exactly. It's half my job. I still not quite there. But obviously, if you use big words that are difficult to say, it's a really good measure of how clever you are. So I'll keep persisting with it. Obviously, when you get those hypotheses, then that's when it can feed into our A/B testing, which gives us that lovely quantitative data. Another big word there. Gives us our quantitative data, which really gives us those lovely statistics to back up all of the things that we've kind of put our research into. This slide here is some types of customer research that we do here at Launch. This is by no means an extensive list. These are just four that I particularly really like.
What's the happy customer one?
So that one is where we will speak to, we'll get a handful of brands' happiest customers. So the ones who have been buying with them on repeat for years on end.
Most loyal.
Most loyal customers. They're kind of real, people who've been with the brand for a long time, people who, around that long time. And we speak to those people and we understand why they buy with that brand. We understand what brought them there in the first place. Why not competitors? Like why is it you and not X, Y, and Z? And we also try and get them in that mindset of where they were before they started purchasing with X brand, to really see if we can tap into that more with our marketing moving forward, and just try and understand that better, really.
How about the review mining?
So this is, you mentioned earlier about barriers to entry. This is one where, again, if you've got reviews, there really isn't any at all. It's just, if it is something you're looking to start out on, you're starting to try and understand your customers better. That's a bit of a goal for your business, but you haven't got massive resource to do it. This would be a really good place to start. Basically, this is where we'll dig through reviews and we will look for real key themes within them. So it's not just looking at the
analysis and
exactly. It's not just looking at the star ratings. It's looking at what people are actually saying. And we can go into some of those themes that you want to uncover in a little more detail in the next slide. But yeah, it's really getting underneath what people are saying and trying to then reflect back to those customers the language that they're using about your brand, about your products.
We did this amazing survey of 250, I think. In fact, I think it was 251 CMOs from across the UK and US, and it was particularly about how does customer voice and a customer first approach affect marketing and performance marketing in particular. And I know that we use already reviews within our ad copy and an understanding of what words and sentiments are coming from customers, but actually there is way more that can be done with this, isn't there? And that learning library that you talked about at the beginning, this is all building up basically a library of customer information that can then impact marketing strategy, performance marketing. But I mean, I'm probably skipping ahead here, but it also can affect, the copywriting that you use on the website, your brochures, what products you buy.
Yeah, definitely don't, if you are running these types of research, definitely don't silo off the findings to your ads team or to your email team or whatever it might be. Like, what you find, and the great thing about doing this is, will apply to pretty much every area of your business. It can, like you mentioned, it can be from messaging, it can be creative, it can be what you run in ads, it can be how you get your salespeople to speak to people on the phone. It can influence. So
Amazing.
there's plenty of good stuff there. Just on the other two ones there, I won't go through in too much detail, but yeah, feel free, like Jay mentioned, feel free to drop us any questions or anything afterwards. But we've got pop-up surveys, which I'm sure everyone would have seen on websites before. The most popular ones of those are normally on entry to a website, or we can get them set up so that it's just before someone exits a website. That can be really interesting. So you kind of get an understanding of why they want to go, or even post-purchase as well. So get some really good insights there. It's a really good way of getting a high volume of data, especially if your website gets decent traffic. An acquisition journey is one that I personally really like, because it's one that, as I mentioned at the start, kind of straddles both of the things that I do here at Launch, where it looks at how a customer gets to the website, but it looks at the whole process. It looks at what are they searching for, what are they seeing once they've searched for it, what kind of shopping ads are they seeing, what kind of search ads are they seeing, what touch points they get to the website on. Is the first touch point a product page, is it the home page, etc. And we can really tailor our findings from there then.
Amazing.
This slide is, I think, particularly useful because this is to give some guidance on the kind of things you should be looking for, or the kind of things that you can uncover by doing this research. And it applies really to all four of the areas I mentioned just before. But if we take the review mining, for example, because that's something, like I mentioned, people can just take away and start if they want to. But if you look at your reviews, you really want to be trying to understand, what people's desired outcomes were before they purchase with you. What do they see your USPs as being, rather than maybe what you might think it might be? Market observations is a great one. And that can be, you're looking out for things like people saying, oh, everything else was so expensive, but I found X, Y, and Z, or everything else was such low quality, but this solved that problem. And that is the kind of gold you're looking for essentially in these reviews. And yeah, that's what can really help move forward. But yeah, I won't go through all of them, but again, if people have got questions and stuff afterwards, feel free just to drop me a DM.
And we're going to be sharing the slides afterwards as well. So yeah.
And yeah, we've kind of already touched on this to an extent, but first things first, the most obvious thing it can do is it can guide your creative, and whether that's in ads, for example, it can really inform what imagery you use across Google, across Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, etc., whatever it might be. But that's the most obvious one.
I think Becky was wanting to make sure. Becky is our head of paid social, and she was going to want to make sure you definitely said that. I mean, she took the words out of your mouth, Josh, but this is where we're really seeing this creative briefing. We've always had a hand in creative briefing, but it has been challenging without it being data backed. But that the power, you often get creative agencies saying, well, show me examples of good ads. Well, it's about what your customer wants to see, not about what what is good just as best practice. So being able to use this for creative briefing is really important. Thanks for chiming in there, Becky. I promise you he is definitely going to talk about social as well.
It sounds like a better now, hasn't I? But yeah, creative's such a key part of it for sure. This also ties in with copy and messaging as well. And like we touched on, if you are running research or you're looking to just make sure that every possible stakeholder is across it, because like you mentioned, Jay, it's valuable for copywriters, it's valuable for people managing the website. We can look at how we can try and talk to people throughout every stage of their journey, and really get a clear kind of aligned view across every bit of marketing you're doing essentially with that.
And that really helps with consistency, doesn't it?
Exactly that. If we're doing prospecting display ads and we're doing prospecting social ads, we should be tapping into the same things essentially, because we can understand what works with them, and whether that is for certain customers, whether that might be social proof or it might be price led at that point, but whatever it is, we need to be consistent with that. And then that needs to reflect your copy and your messaging on the website, etc. And it might influence what you have as your tagline, for example. There's plenty of stuff it can go into. And we really briefly touched on this one, but I know we mentioned at the start it can guide your creatives, which is great, and that's where we can change colors of backgrounds and things, and we can change who's at the front of an image and all that kind of stuff. But actually, this is also what's really important to start it now, but helping to provide creative briefs in the first place. It's really important that if you're going out and doing photography for your upcoming season, for example, you understand that actually your customers prefer it when there's a couple in the picture, or they prefer it when the sun's shining in the background, or whatever it might be. We can give that guidance at this point. So not only the creatives themselves are on point, but the actual imagery and the assets you've got to work with in the first place are going to be absolutely top notch on what your customers want, which makes all of that stuff go even further.
Amazing.
And again, to really kind of tap into why it is important to start this process now, like with anything, it does take time to do it right. At launch, we'll follow this kind of typical learning program where we'll make sure we've got fundamentals there. So we've got a learning library set up, like Jay mentioned, where we're going to house where we can house all of our tests, all of our recommendations, our understandings, like all that kind of stuff is in there. Well,
and I suppose that if you're wanting to impact your peak season, if you're a travel company, that might be January, February. Yeah. If you're an e-commerce brand, that might be November, December. Really, you need to start those learnings now, because you want to build up a picture, don't you? It's not a quick review mine and that's done. You're wanting to actually build a proper program of customer first.
Yeah, exactly. And ideally we want to make sure we've got these learnings heading into that peak period. So we're at that point you've done the testing, so you're heading in with the best possible creatives, the best.
Yeah, because you don't want to be A/B testing in your peak period, do you?
Ideally not. Ideally, the website's already going to be as good as it can be at that point. The ads are already in place, and we've got all that research to back it up.
Yeah. I'm super excited to see some examples, because it always just makes it a little bit more tangible.
It is definitely a good job I prepared some of that. And if there is anyone watching this thinking, "Oh, this won't be quite right for my business, my customer, my sector," that just isn't true. We've done this kind of research. We've done these types of research across pretty much anything you can imagine. And there's a few examples here. We've got lead gen clients, both B2B and B2C. We've seen great results of e-com and travel, perhaps a bit more obvious ones, but again, we've seen great results across those based off the back of this kind of research we're doing. So it's not exclusive to e-com, it's not exclusive to travel, like whatever kind of field you're in, there's some real insight to be had there.
Brilliant. I should actually at this point say we've got VWO coming to sponsor our event, the CMO's Guide to Performance Marketing, which is going to be in person in Bristol on the morning of the 26th of March, so just 4 weeks away. You can grab a ticket here. I'm going to give an exclusive code of my name, Jaye. So if you want a free ticket, use my code when you're checking out, and you'll be able to come along. And we're often using VWO as our testing platform, aren't we? And there's all kinds of learnings. We've got Iceland Air appearing in a panel. We've got Blue Bolt, a brilliant Shopify agency, as one of our headline sponsors. They're going to be doing a great panel, really talking about that customer journey. But for those of you who can't make it to Bristol, can't make it in person, we do invest and we record it all, and we can send you those slides and recordings afterwards. So whatever happens, make sure you either grab a ticket or sign up to our newsletter so that you can get that value, because I think the more examples that people see of this, the more that they'll realize that this is possible for all brands. Some of the more advanced programs, maybe you're going to want 100,000 so visitors of a month to your website. But for smaller clients, the customer review mining, the just the ad copy experimentation is crucial. I know you're about to show us some examples, so I'll let you get on with that, Josh. I just had to plug it. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. So yeah, just a couple of examples of, like, I guess, bringing this to life, really, kind of things we're talking about. So for the Natural Adventure, one of our clients, we've done a similar type of research before, where we've spoken directly to customers, trying to get feedback on some of the ads we run for them. And some of that feedback was customers weren't feeling like they were getting enough information within the ads themselves to really encourage them to click through. Mm-hmm. They wanted to see a little bit more in the first place, which again might be against popular belief of trying to condense everything and make it all short form. So we took that feedback on board. That meant we could have our hypothesis of where we want to display. If we put ad creative that had more information about holiday details, that will achieve a higher conversion rate. So we tested our original ad, which is A in this example, versus B, and we saw some really great stats. Like, they're massive numbers, right? That's really good stuff.
Yeah, sometimes the numbers that you and Joe and Amy come out with are incredible, and I know it's only like roughly, I don't know, was it 1 in 3 tests that win, but it really is exceptional to see the results. And especially if you're spending $1 million a year on media and you're not investing in this, it does, it seems a complete waste.
Yeah, it's a massive opportunity. If you're watching this and you're realizing you're not doing any of this stuff, it's such a big opportunity there. Like, I can't get it across enough. So even if you start small and build up, do that, and you'll start to see the kind of.
Becky's popping up again. I'm sorry, Josh.
No, this is typical of Becky. This.
But it's right though, isn't it? Because those two creatives, it doesn't matter what we think. What matters is what has the customer said? How can we reflect that in the ads? And then what do the numbers say?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's also there's nothing to say that we would have come up. You wouldn't come up necessarily yourself with that idea of, let's stick more information in this ad, for example. That's come from customers actually telling us that's what they want to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting that real understanding, like we mentioned.
Go on then, Josh, show us another example, because we've only got a minute left.
Oh God! Right. Okay. Here we go. Real similar piece of research. Again, with a clothing brand here. With Weirdfish, we did a similar thing where we asked customers to look at ads and tell us what they thought of them. One of the common themes that came up was they expected to see different color options in the ads of when the products we were showing them.
I know this is super frustrating for you, Josh, because the GIF is not working, but
yeah,
explain the GIF to us.
So, and funny enough, this literally came up in a call that I was on with you yesterday, Jay, actually, where I said, good at paid media, good at CRO, bad at tech. So apologies for that. But on the right-hand side, in the B section there, that should be a GIF, which cycles essentially through all the color variants of that product. So you can imagine how good that looks. But yeah, we said by adding in more color options, that will help improve the add to cart rate, which it did, which was excellent news. And not only did it do that, but it helped our click-through rate and also led to more purchases as well. So again, it's just really, it does directly impact, the results you see, and it can make all of that advertising spend you're putting in go a lot further. Yeah.
Absolutely. Amazing. Are those all your examples?
That is all the examples.
Love it. It's almost like you knew. I will remove that from the. It's almost like you knew we only had 30 minutes and you got the exact right amount of time. I think it's really. I think those examples really bring to life that lots of media agencies are doing A/B testing on their creatives, but often what they're missing is the voice of the customer or a rigorous approach to come up with those hypotheses. Instead, they're using the opinions. I want it to look like this. Let's test it against that, without actually hearing that voice of the customer. So we're so grateful at launch to have you, Josh, being able to have a foot in each camp, having that knowledge of CRO, building up that knowledge of CRO, knowing what it is to do great performance marketing, having those two skill sets in the agency to support Joe, Amy, and the team doing CRO, and Danny and Becky and everyone doing the paid media really makes a difference. And I think it's a real point of difference for launch that you're able to scientifically be able to bring that knowledge in. So thank you. I don't often get a chance to big up the team live on a LinkedIn, but it's great work that you're doing and our clients really appreciate it. So thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much.
Anything else to wrap up? Are there any last? I know that you're going to be busy making the pancake mix now so that it can rest in the fridge for Tuesday. But anything else to add before we go?
No, just basically just get started with doing your research. As small, if it's starting small, if it's looking at reviews to start with, get going with it and see where it takes you. And like you mentioned, definitely feel free to drop me a message or anything like that if anyone has got any questions or wants to look in a bit more detail.
Brilliant. Well, all of this will appear shortly on the launch blog. Do come along to our event in Bristol. And if you can't make it in Bristol, we're also going to be sponsoring another performance marketing event in London in May. But we want to get in front of as many people as possible. So do share this recording if you think it has helped you. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, good to see you, Josh. I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks very much.